is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the Vintage RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse, hidden somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, the editor-in-chief of Unwinnable.com. He thought so nice we're going to do this episode twice. Stu Horvath. How you doing today, Stu?
Pretty good. I guess we're going to be honest about it, huh?
Yeah, you know what? Why try to hide things from our listeners? So about a week ago, we had an amazing episode recorded with Jess and Andrew from Noble Knight Games. Now, Jess is the head of marketing. Andrew is known as the czar of RPGs around Noble Knight as well. And for some reason, Zoom decided not to give us the audio, so we decided to go through and re-record that episode, this time with feeling, though, everybody. So without further ado, an even more amazing episode with Jess and Andrew from Noble Knight Games. How are you doing, Jess and Andrew?
Doing really great. How are you guys?
We are awesome. We are so happy to have you back on the screen doing an interview with us. And initially, what this episode was supposed to be about, it was supposed to air right around April Fool's Day. It's going to come out the week after. You know, one of the cool things that we love about Noble Knight Games, and for those of you who are new listeners, Noble Knight is the sponsor of the Vintage RPG Podcast. And no, this whole episode will not be a commercial. However, there is so much cool stuff going on behind the scenes at Noble Knight. And often when chatting with Jess, we find out about weird and wonderful things that don't always make it to the shelf that people send in when they trade in their stuff to Noble Knight Games. So we thought it'd be pretty cool to let you in a little bit behind the scenes at all the weird and wild things that are happening behind closed doors at Noble Knight Games.
Well, it's our pleasure to come on and talk about it. And hey, it's fun to do things twice. It's always fun to hang out with you guys.
You know, I feel the same way. And, you know, I just considered the first one practice. It was a dry run. Now we're all wearing costumes and it's happening. People have paid for tickets. Not really. The show is still free. So, Andrew, before we get into some of the weird and wild stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit about being the czar of RPGs over at Noble Knight Games? What is that like? Is that a self-appointed title, or did they put it to a vote?
100% self-appointed title. I just sort of said it jokingly one day, and it grew legs on its own. It's, by the way, Czar, TSAR.
Yes.
Yeah, a little D&D humor there. Yeah, no, it's really cool. Whenever somebody goes, we have a whole little quarter of RPGs in the store, because of course we do. And whenever somebody goes in that little gazebo-shaped part of the storefront, you can see me running over there and, hey, what are you looking for? What are you looking at? What's going on? And sometimes I get a weird look and then I say, this is my section. I'm just really excited to talk to people about role-playing games. So that's why I'm over here.
I got to say that we're already improved over the last time, because I didn't get the TSAR joke the first time.
I spelled it with a C, like initially when I jokingly put it in my email signatures, and then I thought, wait, what an opportunity! what am I doing here? And so there you go. Now TSAR.
Yeah, when it's right over the plate like that, you kind of just have to swing for it. And I'm glad that you did. Like, normally, it doesn't work trying to get yourself over with a self-appointed nickname, but you did it, you got it, and I'm psyched about it. Like, for me, and I know I can speak for Stu when I say stuff like this, it's hard to go into a store and be confronted with someone who doesn't want to be there and has zero enthusiasm about collecting that paycheck from that company. So I would be amped to walk in the doors of Noble Knight and see you stand there being very excited to sell me something. And not just because it's your job, because you genuinely are excited about the product.
One of my very favorite things is when people tell me about their campaigns. And I know that's contrary to like normally the, don't tell me about your character thing. But sometimes somebody hits me off with just the coolest story about whatever they're doing in a role-playing game. There was a guy running a history of Tolkien thing where he was using an RPG to like explore what all that meant, like the stuff that didn't make it in the books, like Silmarillion type stuff. And there was another guy who's running a game set in Madison, Wisconsin. He said, we're one player. It was like a modern game. And I said, are you using different rules? He goes, no, we're using 5th edition. I'm like, oh, that's cool. He said, yeah, one of my characters is actually, the name escapes me now. I'm telling a bad story, but it's cool. It's just nice how easily he was adapting stuff by just, rolling with it.
Hey, man, whether you are in Faerun or whether you're in Fairlawn, you're still going to have to make a dex check to get off that curb without twisting your ankle. So 5th edition totally works. Now, you are in the front of the house. Jess, you're a little more behind the scenes. Why don't you tell our listeners about what you do over at Noble Knight Games?
Well, sure. So initially, a couple years ago, I came on as a storefront manager when the company moved to the Madison, Wisconsin area, which to tie into something that Andrew was just saying about an RPG set in Madison, Wisconsin, There's some fascinating history about the underground of Madison, Wisconsin. There's tunnels that lead around underneath the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I don't know if you guys know about that.
No, that's awesome.
If you've ever read it, yeah, it's fantastic. If you've read Name of the Wind at all, the underground beneath the university where there's some strange characters living and running around, that was directly inspired by Patrick Rothfuss's time in Madison at the UW-Madison and the underground tunnels.
Wow.
So just a fun little factoid about our area. But so back to me, I joined on a couple years ago as storefront manager, and as things started to evolve and we continued to grow in the area and have more and more to look at in the broader world, I jumped into a marketing aspect. So I'm edging away from the storefront, but I still, just like Andrew said, it's so much fun to interact with the people who love games, who love RPGs, board games, historicals, everything. So now that I'm in the back, I'm seeing more and more of that back end stuff. And it, like you said, really is fascinating. This isn't just a commercial. It's me to letting you know the reason we have these fascinating, strange, bizarre, and sometimes overlooked items is because we buy from our customers, right? So we get all this great stuff, which you can, of course, send into us. We have lots of programs. Feel free to hit us up anytime. But we sometimes find things that have been left behind in boxes that weren't maybe intended to be in the boxes. Sometimes we find really maybe they were intended to be left in the boxes, but things that won't necessarily get sold. Like Andrew, you said you found some character sheets in some of the RPGs purchased recently.
Yeah, when people turn things in and there's random things in the boxes, one of my favorite is character sheets. And I've actually gotten our trade specialists to, I have a sort of agreement with them to hand me those character sheets because we're not going to resell them. What would we do with that? And I keep them in a little special place. It's like being an archaeologist for games a little bit, where you're like, oh, here's someone's character sheet from when they were 12 and they've written in the marginalia, and maybe they got crazy magic items, or maybe they've got all 18s for their stats, which I'm sure they rolled legitimately.
Oh, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to redeem that story. If I could real quickly, Jess, you reminded me of it. It was that campaign in Madison was based around the tunnels.
Oh,
there was an interdimensional aspect to it where characters from space and time could come together. And one of his players was playing Warren Zevon.
What?
He was literally just Warren Zevon. And I said, what class is Warren Zevon? And he looked at me like I was stupid and said, yeah, he's a bard. Yep. All right. Fair enough.
You walked right into that one, my friend.
I did.
I love that.
We love Warren Zevon. So when you want to pop the crowd here, you did it right, Andrew. So Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the weird stuff that got left over in boxes? I mean, outside of, the occasional adult magazine, which I'm sure finds its way into the stack, like what else have you found?
Yeah, we do find those questionable personal items from time to time. They get left in there. I suspect it's a good hiding place from your significant other to hide something in, the campaign for North Africa. She's not going to look. She'll never look. But see, one of my favorites recently, we posted this one up on our social media. There was a really delightful children's drawing of perhaps modrons, goblins, some very avant-garde abstract art that was so endearing. That the look of tortured pain in these characters' faces was so wonderful. We just basked in the absurdity of it, and we kept that. I loved it. That kind of stuff genuinely makes us happy. We get to see these bits of someone's personality and someone's life that got left behind. But stranger things for sure have turned up everywhere from, let's see, I think we found some knives and weapons, Band-Aids, of course. Please don't.
Band-Aids. Ew. That is just so gross.
Yeah. People sometimes just don't really look over the thing. They're like, it's been sitting on the shelf for 15 years. I don't know what's in there. Why is it there in the first place? I don't know. But I promise we look through these boxes so that you can be assured of having non-strange, unexpected items inside yours when you pick them up from us if you buy an old.
Oh, God.
But we found
that would be horrible. Just thinking about getting a Band-Aid in the mail.
I'm always excited when I buy an old book and there's some kid's name like Billy was here, written in the book, because Billy used that book and that was awesome. But I don't want to find Billy's Band-Aid.
Oh man, you're providing an important service. I didn't even think of that.
Well, we found another time someone had it was a comic book. We do buy comic books as well. Of course, we have those. We actually have some really cool historic ones. I ran across recently a first series of Batman that was some kind of which Beatles member is dead mystery a la Scooby-Doo. I've never heard of it before. It was Saul Cartwright is dead and has been replaced by an imposter, and Batman and Robin are investigating the matter while the Rockers are guests at Wayne Manor, and They're trying to find criminal ties to a member. It's crazy. We've members of historical societies that have left, membership cards in there. I found one where someone had some slightly racy comics that they had taken some stickers to cover all of the racy bits out. It wasn't that racy. I think it was someone's mom, perhaps. Like, you don't need to see these parts. We found interestingly constructed miniatures from time to time. We love seeing those custom builds. If you've been kit bashing your way through some wonderful things, they look so cool when they come out. We don't know what to call them, but we found, there was the dinosaur mount that had, medieval banners hanging from it, and it was dangling its handler from a rope from its mouth. We've got that on display in the store. I don't know what to call that or where it came from, but there it was. So we found things like old video games. Sometimes we buy them directly. Sometimes they're just left behind. We found a Commodore 1541 floppy disk drive for a Commodore 64 recently.
Wow.
We've got old Nintendo cartridges. We bought an Atari recently. I think we still have that one up on the site. Oh, it's saddle and racing horses and jockeys from like the 1970s to 1980s season. We found betting sheets. That's always fun.
Yeah. I don't think if any of those were a winner, you could redeem them for any kind of money. So that's, just historical at this point.
Yeah.
So you are shaped like a castle. You mentioned weapons before. How often do you acquire weapons in these trade-ins or in these boxes? Because it does sound to me like they are sending a lot of stuff in and just being like, well, this is the stuff I know they're going to take, but I don't know. I just don't want to throw this out in the garbage. So I'm just going to put it in this box and, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, there was a really beautiful decorative ceremonial dagger that made its way into a trade a couple years ago. And that's just hanging on the wall in my office. It's too pretty, but it's sharp. I don't think we can sell that on the website safe. We have things like wooden swords and wooden shields that we intended to buy. We have replica armor, replica weapons. Those are always fun. But the accidental weapons, it's pretty rare. We did recently have... Andrew, I don't know if you know if we still have these. We have the Civil War bullets.
What?
Yeah, we had some, they were certified in some way. I think we actually bought them. I don't think it was an accident, but these authentic Civil War bullets. We had a World War II uniform on display for a while. We've got a German World War II era animal hide backpack with fur.
That's a flex.
My favorite part is that I'm really not drawing any distinction between the stuff that you've decided to buy because people have offered them to you and the stuff that has just been randomly included in boxes. Like, it's all the same to me in my head. Like, that people just
You're not
send
super wrong.
I'm going to put random stuff in a box. I'm going to see what kind of credit I get from Noble Knight when they
chances are we're going to take it. I mean, there's of course some things that we'll turn down, but why not? You've got an odd Cthulhu idol plaque that's like a Cthulhu with kind of female anatomy. We'll buy it, sure. We had that sold very quickly, actually.
That Cthulhu set was like hand curated, wasn't it, Jess? I mean, it was like a homemade kind of a thing with all kinds of like paraphernalia from like props for the RPG.
Yeah, there was a really large collection we just bought recently that had some fascinating stuff in it. I just put up on Instagram some pictures of the Visit Arkham posters and postcards. There were also, there was a plush Necronomicon book. The Deep One sculpture, and I'm putting up very soon a video I took of the really cool one that was in there, an Enoch Bowen's Egyptian expedition case. And that had a mummified finger and a statue idol.
Like a real mummified finger?
Sure.
There was one prop in there that, my brain knows that it was, homemade and just a prop, but it freaked me out. It was a tube of what looked to be like leeches or worms and like some like a test tube in some off-colored water, and it was sealed with wax, and it was labeled like parasitic worms of unknown species extracted from the stomach of victim or something. Our photographer was taking pictures of it, and I was like, what is this? I was both horrified and amazed by it.
Those things delight me. The stuff that comes in with the Lovecraftian horror stuff is always just such a delight. It's so interesting.
Ever had something come in that you've had to either A, call the police about, or B, send out to a lab to identify?
To my knowledge, no, but we've been around for over 20 years, so that is entirely possible. We definitely have had things that we wanted to contact the previous owner about, though. We found someone's wedding ring.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we took pains to track that person down. I'm pleased to say we did find them, and we got their ring back to them. So hopefully their wife never found out about that.
I found a birthday check, happy birthday from grandma for like $40 in a trade that I did as a store walk-in. Well, the customer was still there, which it was in a war game, like a classic war game. And I took out the books and I was leafing through really quickly. And there was the check, and in the memo line, it was, happy birthday, love grandma. And I said, I think I have a check from your grandma and also this piece of mail addressed to someone. And he looks at the mail and looks at the guy he's with and goes, well, this is your mail. And then he looks at me and says, we don't live together. How'd I get your mail in my war game? And then he looked at me like I was somehow involved. Like, I don't know. Here's your mail. Here's grandma's check.
You're like David blamed it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is this your grandma? I don't know.
Easier to explain than there's a portal in the back powered by a bunch of Ouija boards that everyone traded in. And I actually just went back and got this check from your grandmother. It's the long way to go to deliver some mail. Here you go.
Once you get so many Ouija boards in one location, the black hole kind of starts to open up underneath it. There's a density to the weirdness that starts to develop in the warehouse because of the proximity of the various Ouija boards.
It makes sense to me. And that's why whenever I make it out there, I'm going to be very mindful of the areas I step in the back room of Noble Night Games. Because listen, as a person, a little personal history about me, Ouija boards, not even once. I will not allow one in any home that I will ever live in. Let's keep the spirits on the other side of the door and the voices in my head where they belong.
Well, and sorry to say, almost all of Wisconsin is pretty much built on an Indian burial ground. So just,
I mean, in fairness, New Jersey's pretty haunted too.
It is true. I know. But there's got to be some kind of line or seal that they can't cross. I don't know. I'm superstitious. So we've been talking about some cool stuff that's coming and some odd stuff that's coming. But what is the weirdest thing that you've ever gotten for a trade-in at Noble Night Games?
The weirdest or the rarest, are you thinking?
Why don't you give us both?
Well, not too long ago, a cataloger brought to me a small, maybe 6-inch long cardboard box that had a very conspicuous "Do Not Open" sticker seal on top of it.
Oh.
And he brought it in both hands, presenting it to me like a delicate egg, and said, "What do you think is in this?"
Wait, he didn't know?
He didn't know, or he hadn't known until he looked it up. But before opening it and presenting it to me, he wanted us to play this little "What would you expect to be in this box?" And I don't know.
What's in the box?
It's what's in the box?
Something you're gonna have to call the cops for, obviously.
Well, he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "It's 192 Bigfoots
in a little box."
In a little box. I said, "What?" He said, "Did you not hear me? It's 192 Bigfoots." I said, "What kind of Bigfoots?" Small ones. Well, yes, I get that. So why? I don't know how or why we got 192 tiny Bigfoots that were posed in the Patterson film shuffling stance, but there we have it. But recently, because we carry very small publishers, international publishers, self-published publishers, as well as the big new stuff, I saw someone's self-published game about fishing and farts recently.
What?
I'm at a loss to remember what the title of this game was, but it was about fishing and farts.
I mean, that would stick with the, separated by an and that Dungeons and Dragons sort of established.
Another one that I thought was pretty delightful recently, a real product that you can obtain is the pop-up book of phobias.
Oh, no.
So if you're worried about those ghosts, open up to the ghost page, and of course you can have the ghost pop out at you and really trigger you fully.
So cruel. Why would you
know
do
for
that?
me, Jess?
What's some other weird stuff? Things that I didn't know existed that are so rare. A company called CCP that was the makers of EVE Online back in around like 2010. Okay. We came across some coins. They were these challenge coins that were intended for the staff to be used like a military challenge coin. So if you're presented with one and you didn't have yours to flash back, then you had to buy the drinks. And they were in these little drawstring, cloth pouches. I don't know how we got them. I don't know where they came from. I don't know what person is now out there buying all the drinks now.
Yeah. Clearly you have all the rest of the coins.
You got to find him. Then he'll buy all the drinks.
It's
gotta catch him all.
Not so much a trade, but a game that I haven't put in the storefront for what will be probably obvious reasons, but I look at sometimes when I see it in the warehouse, and I don't know how PG we are, so I'll just bleep myself. You're an effing butterfly. That's the name of the game. It is shaped like a butterfly. It is like a little booklet. It's hand cut. It's by the same people who brought you Wet Grandpa. I don't know if that's... That's about.
Okay.
Yeah, a 12-page hand-cut butterfly-shaped zine-type booklet. It says it is a LARP for 10 to 52 players.
Jeez, that's a pretty big scale.
Shoe for every foot, man. Shoe for every foot.
It cannot handle 53 players. You can't do 9 players. That's ridiculous. 10 to 52, please.
Preposterous.
Yes.
So what about the rarest thing that you've had come through the doors? or super rare?
So when artists make art for Magic cards, there's proofs that get sent to the artist to check the quality of the print, and they're technically rarer than any Black Lotus card because there's only ever 50 of them. So we recently got Tony DiTerlizzi's artist proof cards for his Magic cards, and he signed all those for us. So that's technically rarer than any Magic card on the market. Oh, we had that baseball. Remember the baseball, Andrew?
Yes.
The Magic baseball.
Signed by Magic artists. Signed baseball.
Were they on like the official Magic baseball team?
That's a great theory, and I'm going to start telling people that because it's still in the store. It's still for sale. I don't know why they would sign a baseball. I think the working theory is that it's in the early days of Magic, and so people weren't quite sure what to get all the artists to sign. There were different artists, so it's not like you could have like one Magic card they all worked on. So somebody produced a baseball, and there we are.
I mean, it's either that or like a rock and jock softball game between like the D&D wing and then the Magic wing, and like Dan Cortez was there or something.
I like this idea. Who do we think won this hypothetical softball game?
I'm probably gonna go with the D&D squad.
Okay,
on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Team D&D. All right.
I want it to be true, but I kind of feel like I would have voted the opposite side.
Maybe.
I feel like those guys are scrappy.
Yeah, I could totally see where you're coming from with that, Jess.
I mean, in the early days, the Magic folks were the younger folks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sort of like a young whippersnapper team.
Yeah.
Between the steam tunnels and this imaginary softball game, I'm getting all kinds of cool ideas for weird campaigns over here. So thank you. There's a game in there somewhere.
I'm remembering now too. We had some really cool TSR oddities. We had the D&D stained glass windows.
Okay.
Those are super cool. I don't remember if we have any of those left. We do have a TSR Tiffany crystal that was given to TSR employees. So that's one of the rarest D&D TSR artifacts, I think, that is out there. We at one point had Gary Gygax's personal briefcase.
What?
Wasn't it his carry-on luggage? I believe I was told it was his carry-on. Oh, now the legends just grow.
Now I'm going to have to look and check, but I'm not sure. But it was definitely a piece of his personal traveling equipment. I think it had some business cards, places he'd visited recently, some restaurants that he had stopped off in. It definitely was his. Hopefully we'll get a hold of one of his sandals one of these days.
I actually know a guy who knows a guy who is in possession of the sandal of Gygax.
Imagine being a person whose work inspires other people to want like your junk. Like after you're gone, like a random sandal and my carry-on luggage, like I can't even
it's like throw me your jersey, but throw me your Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah. I mean, this is also coming from the guy who's bought in a large amount of Greg Stafford's old personal belongings from his widow, but I get it. I know where you're coming from with that.
Those were books. It wasn't like Gary, favorite flannel. There's like a line of strangeness there, I think.
Yeah, I bet Gary's favorite flannel was like really warm and comfortable too.
Oh gosh.
Oh, I bet it was. Oh, so huggable. Yeah. Well, and we of course have the wood grain box D&Ds. We have your white boxes. We've gotten, Palace of the Silver Princess orange band editions. We've got, first printing Expedition to Barrier Peaks. We've seen all that super rare stuff come through, but that's almost run of the mill for us now. That's kind of our bread and butter. So the weird stuff is more standout to me now, but we've started to feel like that. Oh, another Palace of the Silver Princess. That's cool.
Yeah. NBD. We've seen a couple of those come through here. It was Tuesday.
I mean, they're not that rare, right? That's the thing. Like, I mean, maybe the Palace of the Silver Princess is, but I was sort of surprised to find that the deities and demigods with the Cthulhu and Elric stuff in it, like the print runs on those aren't small. Like there was no recall. They didn't pulp any of those books. So there's a lot of them out there and they're not that rare, but people still want to pay, top dollar for them. That's like,
sure.
An obvious collectible.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Aerolota stuff, we actually have the original painting of deities and demigods on display in the store.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I'm never going to leave that store when I visit. Like, it's just like, you have to like knock me out.
Well, I'm going to have to hold your wallet and I'm going to chaperone you because that's the only way you're going to be able to pay your mortgage that month, buddy. Because I shudder to think having to like face your wife and be like, yeah, he got all this cool stuff. I tried my best.
They wouldn't let me leave with the Aerolotus painting.
I don't know if you'd be able to check that in your luggage. It would be a nightmare, or maybe we'd have to drive. I don't know. But nonetheless.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah, it's a good size painting. We also have, and this one is directly for sale right now, the Shadowrun original logo art. And that's also on display in the store. Yeah, we have a lot of really cool original art, art prints. We've got a really cool Star Wars movie poster collection that I think we've had for a couple years now. That one's really amazing looking, honestly. We also have novels and historical books, some signed, some not, some modern, some older. That just the range of stuff that we have. Again, this sounds very self-serving, but it really is astonishing when you just wander through the warehouse as often as Andrew and I do. The things that you see back there, because there's so many thousands of items on the website, it's hard to know what to look for if you don't expect us to have something like this. So I guess the long and short of it is, if you're curious what we have, just go take a look, because even I don't know what we have sometimes. There's so much stuff.
I take pictures in the warehouse of weird things. This is not really that particularly noteworthy. I just thought it was weird. It's on my phone. It's a copy of Psychology Today, 4th edition. It's a textbook. I don't know where we got a textbook, but we have one. So, hey, if you're starting college classes, I know it's not the season, but maybe Noble Night should be in your textbook shopping list.
How many square footage is the
I think it's 50,000.
Wow.
How full is that?
It's very large. It's pretty full, honestly. We're making more space in it. So one of the things that happened when we moved, one of the impetuses to move to the Madison area was the original location had grown so organically over time, from it being a one-man operation to a two-man operation in Janesville, Wisconsin, to being spread out over several warehouses and storage units. And there were some storage units that were crammed full of things that we had purchased as a company that hadn't yet gotten cataloged, and they started to get that feeling, oh, we're going to move soon, so let's just leave it there. So then we have pallets and pallets of this backlog stuff that we'd purchased from the years that's pretty much like, what's in it? Your guess is as good as mine. So it's just pallets of things that we haven't gotten through yet, and they've been sorting through it, and that's clearing more and more space, but it's really pretty full. But I'm pleased to say it moves fairly quickly too. We do these big quarterly restocks of new releases. We're buying all the time, so our shelves are constantly filling up and flowing backwards like the tides. It's wonderful to see. It's sometimes sad to see some of those things that I've grown attached to leave the building. I just enjoyed looking at them and visiting them. But, the Gremlins Mohawk figure, he had to go to a new home recently. That
like an actual gremlin?
Yeah, full-size Mohawk gremlin. I like to give him a high five.
Jeez.
Beat him after midnight, that kind of thing.
You're living dangerously, especially at a warehouse like that.
He's keeping the warehouse safe at night.
Yeah.
We had a life-size Doctor Who, was it David Tennant, I believe, that used to sit right in the storefront, and I was really glad to see that go because it scared the heck out of me. Every single time I'd come from the back room, like, oh, God, it's David Tennant. Okay, I'm fine now. And it was sold for that very purpose because someone bought it, and they said, my friend is having a birthday. It's going to be a surprise. She's a huge David Tennant fan. We're going to hide this in the bathroom to scare the heck out of her.
No, that's not cool.
Were you in the room, Andrew? I can't remember if you did the lightsabers thing with us recently. We bought a collection of those really high functioning lightsabers, the ones that you can, smack them against each other and they make the sounds and stuff. We were playing around with those, and so I was filming with the lights off and we're all goofing around with lightsabers, and then someone just walks into the room to see us all posing with lightsabers in the dark, and they're like, whoa, clearly you are doing things. I'm just going to back away slowly. Just a little look into our lives.
Well, that sounds incredibly fun. And with that, why don't you tell our listeners a little more about your trade-in program? Because this is a great way for us as people who have RPGs that maybe we're not playing, give us the ability to make a little more room for RPGs we plan on playing. So talk to us about your trade-in program.
Are you dropping hints, Hambone? Are you telling me to trade in my stuff?
No, I'm telling you to add an extension onto the clubhouse. I'm realistic about your situation here. I'm eyeballing some board games, and I'm like, I'm never going to play that. Let's send it to Jess.
Well, for sure. We as has been discussed pretty extensively in this program so far, we will buy almost anything. If there's something that you want to make some room out of your house, you want to shift it, send us an email, trades@noblenight.com. Chances are very good we're going to take it. We'll offer you cash or even more in-store credits so that you can recycle it up. We will find loving new homes for those things, so you don't have to have that guilt of, throwing something away or, pitching it to a yard sale. It's going to go to a home that's going to love it, that's going to display it, that's going to play it. You can feel good about where it's going to go. And also make room for yourself to get something new or some new collectible item. Maybe you really, you're wanting to save up for that Shadowrun original logo art. You want to get some of those new Pokemon cards, the rare promo cards that we just put up, that cute little Pikachu, that birthday Pikachu I was showing you. Aw, I'm not even a Pokemon person, but these little freaking cute Pokemon cards. He's in a little costume. He's dressed up as some other Pokemon author. So if you want to just, make room for something new in your life, or you're just, looking to cash in, we're probably going to take it. And we've started a new program called the Night's Most Wanted, something that was kind of in demand from our customers for years, which is a targeted buy list of things that we're temporarily offering peak prices for. So we kind of look over our inventory, and we pride ourselves on having this wide range of products, and we want to keep that range available for our customers so that you can turn to us for the out of print, the rare, the strange, the new. So we've put together a rotating list where we say, hey, we are looking for, this kind of war game from, SPI this week, and we're going to offer you peak prices for that. So keep your eyes on those, and you can jump in at the right moment and sell your things at an even elevated price and get even more for your value. So we've got a lot of that going on, but you can drop us an email anytime. Check out our website for more information. We'll even send the shipping label to you, so you can send your stuff to us for free. Or if you're in our area, drop by the store anytime. You can drop it off. We'll give you a receipt, get you a quote very quickly. We love working with people on this stuff. So let us know what you got. We'd love to see it. We enjoy looking at it. Whatever art you want to leave behind in it. If your kids want to draw us a picture, we love it.
Just don't send any Band-Aids.
Please, no Band-Aids.
Ew, so gross.
Please check for adult content in your boxes before you send them to us.
Just put that in the recycling like a regular person.
Yeah, your garbage man's not going to judge you. Just pitch it in the recycling bin.
Well, that's where his subscriptions come from, Well, Jess, Andrew, this was awesome. Thank you for coming on again and giving it once again with feeling. We love having you on the show. We love being partnered up with Noble Knight, and our door is always open to you. Hit us up anytime you want to come on. We would love to chat more about the weird and wonderful things you could find in the back room of Noble Knight Games. And folks, it's another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Vintage RPG, where I post stuff that I haven't quite yet been able to send in to.
And he trailed off. So it's all stuff that he couldn't send into Noble Knight yet. You could find me on Instagram and Twitter at John McGuire RPG. Yes, I've changed all my social media. I tweet about board games. I tweet about cute animals. I tweet about Dungeons and Dragons and other RPGs. I mostly don't leave the house, but I will post pictures occasionally at John McGuire RPG. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews really do help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, don't forget about our Patreon, patreon.com/vintagerpg. We've got an amazing behind-the-scenes look at Stu's book. We've got a behind-the-scenes look at my RPGs. We've got a killer Discord community that we'd love for you to be a part of, as well as early release episodes. Patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dega West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.